My name is David Record Breaker Rush, and I have just broken the world record for the most concurrent Guinness World Records titles held. In this video tells you how I did it.
My name is David Rush, and I try to break a world record every week.
It's not straightforward. There's drama, intrigue, suspense. In fact, at one point, it almost didn't happen at all. Okay, I'll be honest. Multiple times it almost didn't happen. I am the third person to ever hold this record. It's an unofficial one now. The first was Sharita Furman, the patriarch of Guinness World Records titles. Born in 1955, the same year as Guinness World Records, he was the one that has broken probably the most records overall, but currently holds the third most. The second is Silvio Salva. He's held this record since 2020 out of Italy, and I started tracking who had the most records in about 2021 when I had a mere 87 Guinness World Records titles to Silvio Salva's 228 active titles. This is the story of how I got there. In fact, one year, I almost walked away from Guinness World Records entirely. The most common misconception people have is, how do you create all these new records? And the answer is, I didn't. For the most part of almost all of the over 350 record attempts I've made, the records already existed. They were in the database. I simply applied for them, got the rules, practiced, and broke them myself. But before we go into the actual records, the question is why? Why do I break records? Well, it started to promote STEM education. That's science, technology, engineering, and math, to give students a tangible example that if you set your mind to a goal, believe in yourself, pursue it with a passion, you can accomplish virtually anything. Paralleling my journey from the Idaho public education system and not being smart enough to get into the gifted program to working hard and getting my electrical engineering degree from MIT. Extremely difficult. Then I come back to Boise and I work at a cool technology startup company that had the largest unicorn exit in Idaho's history. A phenomenally successful, out of my wildest dreams professional career. Now, the number one job kids want today is to be a YouTuber. And that's fine if you want to be a YouTuber, but here's what I gotta say. Get a real job first and do YouTube on the side like I do, or Mark Rober. He worked as a NASA engineer, and then he was actually working at Apple, making boatloads of money there before he left to make YouTube his full-time job. So let's get started. Record attempt 0. I wanted to run the fastest 800-meter dash while juggling. Previous record, 2 minutes, 13 seconds. I trained for over 2 years. I ran over 2,000 miles while juggling short runs, long runs, wind sprints, time toss. I ran with my legs burned and my lungs were on fire because I was gonna break a world record. Long story short, at the end of 2,000 miles, I hurt my knee and I wouldn't be able to run again for over a year and a half, and this will happen in life. What do you do when you face a challenge? The number one predictor of success is grit. It is not giving up, especially when it gets hard. And so what I did instead is I pivoted to practice for the longest duration blindfolded juggling. Number 1 on my list, I juggled for 6 minutes, 29 seconds, blindfolded, breaking the current Guinness World Records title. Everyone cheered, and I immediately got so excited, overthrew a ball, broke it by 5 seconds. 6 minutes, 34 seconds, new record, but I now hold a Guinness World Records title as of October 2015, a mere 9 years ago. Number 2, I became the fastest 5-ball juggler. Most juggling catches in 1 minute with 5 balls. I've broken that one a couple times, no longer hold the record. 3, the most juggling head rolls in 1 minute. 4, the longest duration balancing a chainsaw on my chin. Cool story here. The current governor of Idaho was one of the witnesses for that record. He was the lieutenant governor of Idaho at the time, Brad Little, now serves as governor. Number 5, the fastest blindfolded juggling. Most juggling catches in 1 minute while blindfolded. This led to my first national TV appearance in 2016 when I went on the Today Show to re-break this record. I broke it this time in 48 seconds. It's a 1 minute record, so all I have to do is juggle the next 12 seconds and I will crush this record. But I got so nervous, I kept dropping the balls again and again and again on national TV. Didn't have another attempt to redeem myself for years. Number 6, as I became the world's fastest juggler. The most juggling catches in 1 minute with 3 balls. Previous record 422. I got 428 live on stage in Idaho at Idaho's Got Talent. 7, the most selfies taken in 3 minutes. Attempt disqualified. I had the timers in the background, wasn't allowed. Number 8, longest duration balancing a bicycle on the chin. Number 9, furthest distance traveled with a pool cue balanced on 1 finger. And number 10, longest duration balancing a ladder on the chin. That is the first 10 records, of which I currently hold 1. 11, the longest duration blindfolded juggling. Second time I did this one. 1 year after I got 6 minutes, 34 seconds, I went 22 minutes, 7 seconds, extending this record, feeling great about that. Number 12, world's slowest juggling. This is the fewest juggling catches in 1 minute. Did it on the blue turf at Boise State University. This was also the first record I created. So in 2015, I broke one record. In 2016, I made 11 record attempts. 10 of them were successful. Now starting 2017, I made 24 record attempts, of which 22 were successful. The first is 13, fastest 10 meters with the pool cue balanced on the chin. This was the Boise State Science and Engineering Festival. Third record I had broken there already. 14, the furthest distance walked with a lawnmower balanced on the chin, non-powered. 15, longest duration balancing a lawnmower on the chin, again, non-powered. 16 is the fastest blindfolded juggling. 2, I did go out and finally retake that fastest blindfolded juggling record, finishing the full minute and becoming the world's fastest juggler while blindfolded at the time. 17, fastest juggling for 3 minutes with 3 balls. 18, the most selfies taken in 3 minutes. This time I was successful. I did this at MIT in my class of 2007, 10-year reunion in 2017. It was so much fun to see all my classmates and their families rush in to take all those pictures. Great way to memorialize that 10-year reunion. 19, the most balloons burst by sitting in 1 minute. And 20, the most balloons burst by sitting in 30 seconds. That is now the second 10 records. Of those 10, I currently hold 1. So if you're doing the math here, I've broken 20 Guinness World Records titles in over 2 years. And I currently hold 2 of those on path to break and hold the most concurrent Guinness World Records titles. 22, I'm gonna skip a few now because we got a lot to get through. The longest duration balancing a hula hoop on the head whilst swimming. This is the first and only swimming record I have ever broken. 3, the fastest time to pop 3 balloons with no hands, blindfolded. I think this is the fastest record I have ever broken, 1.37 seconds. Just like that. Next up, 31. This is the most leaves raked in 1 minute. Long time and celebrated TV host Larry Gebert was there for this attempt. He has since passed away. 33, the fastest time to drink hot chocolate. Disqualified. This was my first eating record attempt. It cooled down like a degree or two too much, so it wasn't allowed. We are on to 2018 now. This year was the first year I made a concerted effort to break 52 Guinness World Records titles in 52 weeks. I made 56 attempts, of which 51 were approved. I was this close. 37 is the furthest distance walked with a bicycle balanced on the chin. I did this while on a business trip at Taiwan with some of the people we were working with. They had a local school there. They got bands, trumpets, 3 national news organizations. Really fun event, giant poster, probably the biggest celebration I've had for an educational event. 38, the most Nerf gun target hits in 1 minute. This has to be one of the most fun records to practice for. I've broken it now 3 times. I've shot tens of thousands of Nerf guns. It's just so much fun to line those Nerf bullets up, put them in the gun, cock and shoot, cock and shoot, cock and shoot. I did it for hours and hours and hours. I absolutely love the practice on this one. 46, the most juggling back crosses in 1 minute. Another Create Point event. That live event with hundreds of people cheering me off. It took multiple attempts, bright lights in my eyes. And I was like, am I gonna get it? But the support from the crowd really pulled me through on this one. 47, the fastest time to drink a liter of lemon juice through a straw. Come on! Oh, I wanted to throw up. Almost did. I will later when I attempt this record again. This was my first successful eating record. The most t-shirts worn and torn in 1 minute. 50, the most behind the back frisbee catches in 1 minute. Did this with Mike Beecham, frequent collaborator, awesome frisbee disc player. This one was a lot of fun. 51, the most peas eaten with a toothpick in 30 seconds. 57, the most socks removed in 1 minute while blindfolded with Keto Kenning, famous from the, oh shoot, what's the guy's name? That's gonna bug me. I gotta look this up. What's the guy's name? Huh. Oh well. Now, 58, the fastest time to high-five 20 people blindfolded. This is a real fun group activity. It took lots of attempts, but we got it. 60, the most bowling balls juggled. They gotta be 10 pounds and you gotta do it for 30 seconds. I did this one on the way home from the hospital with my second son at the Western Idaho Fair. 66, the most bites taken from 3 apples in 1 minute while juggling them. This is a fascinating record to watch. Was at the MIT juggling convention, went back. I thought this one was gonna stand for a long time at 164. It did, but I've recently broken it again. 67, the most consecutive side-by-side juggling catches. Broke this one with probably the most connected juggler on the planet, Arthur Lubel, founder of the original MIT juggling club that's met continuously almost for over 50 years. He's the one that encouraged me to start the MIT student juggling club when I was there in 2004. 68, the longest duration juggling on the backs of the hands. This one was way trickier than I expected, but I finally got it. 75, the fastest 100 meters crawler. This is an absolutely exhausting record. It's kind of like doing the 400-meter dash in that it takes about that long, but you have to keep at least one knee and one hand on the ground at all times. I had to try it twice because I had a disqualifying attempt. 78, the furthest distance to blow a pea. This was one of several Dude Perfect records I have gone on to break. Originally, you weren't allowed to cross the start line, but since Dude Perfect did it, the rules changed. 85, the most sweet corn kernels eaten with a toothpick in 3 minutes. Did this one out in a library outside of Chicago while on a business trip, I think visiting Redbox. This was one of my first truly viral records. This launched me getting published in the news media on a regular basis. You know, and it's often those silly records that go viral. It's the one that's people are thinking, why is that a record? Or I could break that record. Those are the ones that often go viral. 71, most Frisbee catches in 1 minute. Chris Knight is awesome to do this with. We've done several Frisbee records together as well. And that brings us to the end of 2018. 2019. Now this is what I call the year of despair. This is the year I almost walked away from Guinness World Records entirely. It was so frustrating. Then we get to 99. Longest duration balancing guitar on the forehead, disqualified. 100, disqualified. 101, disqualified. 102, disqualified. 103. Farthest throw and catch of a hot dog into a hot dog bun, San Diego. This one was successful with Jake Smith. We broke another record later together. But then 104, disqualified. 105, disqualified. This one was over 3 hours long, and it was disqualified for a technicality in the rules, which I clarified with Guinness World Records beforehand. Is this allowed? They said, yes, it is. 3 hours later, disqualified. 107, disqualified. 108, disqualified. What you gotta understand is to break a Guinness World Records titles, it is hard. And you should know this because you probably wanna break one yourself, and it's not easy. Just imagine finding the record, applying for it, getting the rules, finding all the supplies, spending the weeks, days, months, years sometimes to practice. Then scheduling an event, getting the witnesses, the timekeepers, the video evidence, the photographic evidence, putting it all together, breaking the record, celebrating, submitting it to Guinness World Records, and having it disqualified, not once, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of the last 10 times. Absolutely devastating. I almost wanted to walk away. 112, the most tennis balls caught in 30 seconds with alternating hands while standing on a Swiss exercise ball. Now this is an important record because this is the first record I broke with Hollywood hand. The first of over 30 records, maybe even 40 at this point, that we've done together. We had so much fun, not just breaking the records, but during the practice leading up to those records. He's a good man. 113, the most ice cream flavors identified in 1 minute while blindfolded. 115, the fastest time to pop 200 balloons with a nail. Did this one in Tennessee. Also another viral record. Went absolutely bonkers on my channel and other people's channels, because at the time mine was so small that nobody watched anything on my channel, but they definitely watched it on other people's channels. 116, the fastest time to topple 5 targets with a Nerf gun. Another fun one. This time I had enough light that it wasn't disqualified. And now we're to another stretch. 117, disqualified. 118, disqualified. 119, disqualified. 120, most blueberries stuffed in the mouth, undamaged. I was successful. This was the second time I did that one. Longest duration balancing a powered lawnmower on the chin, disqualified. There was a weight restriction on it, but just because I didn't have the bag on it, they said, yeah, no, that's disqualified. Wasn't in the rules, but it was to be fair to the other people who had broken the record with a bag on it. 122, most basketball net catches in 1 minute, disqualified. Now this one I wasn't mad about because somebody actually had broken the record right before me. It just hadn't been approved by Guinness yet. 125, fastest time to stack cup noodles into a pyramid, disqualified. 126, disqualified. 129, disqualified. 130, disqualified. 134, most poker chips stacked in 30 seconds, team of 2, disqualified. 135, disqualified. 136, fastest time to throw 5 flower lays onto another person, disqualified. Now at this point, I was at wit's end. This is the second time that I've had like 8 out of 10 in a row disqualified. This is months of effort each. I'm working full-time in tech. I'm doing this on the side to promote STEM education. Is it really worth all of the pain and disappointment and hassle just to have them all disqualified? Well, I decided maybe it was. So I kept going. 137, the most big cup kendama catches in 30 seconds. 142, the most behind the back basketball catches in 1 minute. This was another fun one with Hollywood Hannon. 146, the furthest distance to throw a tortilla. This one made ESPN. Dan Levitard commented on it. He said he must be a Texas Tech fan because they have a tradition of throwing tortillas on the field before football games. So they actually flew me down for a Texas Tech Red Raiders football game. That was a cool experience. 148, the fastest time to pass 10 t-shirts down a line of 10 people. Super fun event. Again, at Cradle Point of that block party, I've broken so many records there. 149, the fastest half marathon skipping. Yes, that's hop, step, skip. Not with a rope, but skipping. This record had stood for years. I crushed it by several minutes. 1 week later, it was broken again by seconds and has stood for years since. So this super hard record that has been broken twice in the last 15 years was broken 1 week apart. That was a painful one. Just the feet were destroyed. 151, the fastest mile run while juggling blindfolded. This is one of those impossible records. Like, how does it even happen? I've just juggled hundreds and hundreds of hours. I've run thousands of miles, and I had people running on either side of me and behind me, so I had the audio cues about where I was on the road as I ran forward. 156. The most vinyl records broken with the hands in 30 seconds. This is one of the most viral records I've ever had on my channel. 157. The most chairs balanced on the chin. Did this one down on the Huckabee Show in Tennessee. 163. The most behind the back frisbee catches in 1 hour. I did this one with Mike Beecham again. Physically exhausting record, but not as exhausting as the two people picking up the discs for us. So there you have it, 2019, the year of despair. I made 74 Guinness World Records titles attempts that I thought were successful, celebrated the attempts, packaged up all the evidence, submitted to Guinness, and only 47 of them were approved. That is 27 Guinness World Records titles that were disqualified. That is more Guinness World Records titles than virtually the entire planet, except for a handful of people have even attempted. And that's how many I disqualified in a single year. 2020. Here I broke 43 Guinness World Records titles. 167, the most t-shirts worn and torn in 1 minute. Did this one on America's Got Talent Season 15. Got into a t-shirt ripping contest with Terry Crews. Each of us put 30 t-shirts on, grabbed those t-shirts, rip, rip, rip. Got all 30 of them ripped off in 1 minute, but I was ripping 2 at a time once, so only 29 counted, still enough to break the Guinness World Records titles. I was celebrating, thought, hey, that's gonna get me on to the next round. But they asked me a lot of questions beforehand about, what are you gonna do next? We settled on a couple that we thought were really good, but I forgot that whole section. And so I completely flubbed the time on stage in front of the judges explaining what I was gonna do next. And I said, I'm gonna do the most kiwi slice in 1 minute while standing on a Swiss exercise ball with a samurai sword. And what I needed to say is, I'm coming back as the Fruit Ninja, bearing a samurai sword, doing feats of whatever. And I probably would have gotten 3 yeses. As it was, I only got 2, needed 3 to go on to the next round. I thought that would be the end of my AGT experience, and it wasn't. 169. Most catches of a tennis ball on the basket, behind the back in 1 minute. This kicked off a spate of records with Hollywood Hannon during COVID because we were quarantining together, and during COVID, there wasn't a whole lot to do except practice and break records, so we did a bunch of them that year. 175, the most wet sponge hits to the face in 30 seconds. Ambidextrous Hollywood Hannon here, making a big impact. 178, the most ping pong balls caught in shaving foam on the head in 30 seconds. This one became ridiculously competitive. We've had to attempt it, I don't know, 15 times with, I think, 3 successful attempts. 179, the fastest time to put on 10 t-shirts. Another super competitive record for GWR Challenge, and led to a bunch of t-shirt putting on records. 181, the most t-shirts put on in 30 seconds, team of 2. Now, this was disqualified, but James Corden made a big deal out of it because my wife helped dress me. 184, the fastest time to drink a liter of lemon juice through a straw, one of the most viral records I've ever done. 179, the fastest time to eat a cream-filled cookie. Had to start on the forehead, couldn't use the hands. I broke this one in Yellowstone National Park with my son cheering me on. 199, the most apples sliced in 1 minute while juggling 3 knives. Another extremely challenging record. Had to be a juggler for many years, practiced this one specifically 4 months. The thrower is super critical because they need to get it in exactly the right location at exactly the right time, and I wouldn't have been able to do it again without Hollywood Hannon and his crabapple tree from his backyard with hundreds of pounds of apples. 200. The furthest distance traveled on foot while juggling 3 objects. This one, there is no stops. There are no drops. And what really got me is no one was allowed to feed you food or water. I didn't create the record, but the person who did never successfully challenged it because you had to run at least 15 miles continuously. I made it 118 laps around the Centennial High School track in just under 5.5 hours before I finally dropped a ball, breaking this record at 29 miles. Come on! 201. The most times to bounce a ping pong ball off the wall using only the mouth. Another extremely challenging record I thought was going to be easy, but it was months of practice before I could do it. James Corden did a 3-minute segment on this record alone. 204. The most raw eggs caught in the mouth in 1 minute, team of 2. 208. The most juggling catches on a unicycle while blindfolded in 1 minute. 211. The most dice caught in 30 seconds while blindfolded. One of the easiest records I have ever broken because the rules were inadvertently changed because you were supposed to throw them one at a time, but it wasn't actually in the rules. We got into a little spat with some Australian radio hosts, and we've now broken this one a couple more times since then, so it's now kind of difficult. 217, the longest time to balance a pool cue on the forehead. Broke this one in Arches National Park, or just outside. And that wraps 2020. And now on to 2021, the year I was finally successful breaking 52 Guinness World Records titles in 52 weeks. My most famous record-breaking year. Kick it off with 219, the most wet soap stacked by a team of 2 in 1 minute. Did this one with Hollywood Hannon, a great way to kick off a COVID year to wash those hands clean. 220, the fastest time to bounce 5 ping pong balls into 5 glasses, team of 2. 224, the most t-shirts put on in 30 seconds with a team of 2, an awesome Valentine's Day record with my wife. 226, the most glasses bounced on a stick in the mouth, and yes, they did break when they all fell. 227, the longest duration juggling on a balanced board. I didn't know how long I was going to go when I started with this one, but over 2 hours later, I finally fell off. 229, the fastest time to arrange a chess set with a team of 2. I filmed the intro for this video in the hospital while recovering from my appendix surgery. 231. The most kiwi sliced in 1 minute with a samurai sword while standing on a Swiss exercise ball. One of the most difficult and dangerous records I've ever done, commented on by Mr. Beast. 235, the most grapes caught in the mouth while juggling in 1 minute. As an expert juggler and as an expert of catching things in my mouth, putting the two together was way more difficult than I thought. I had to become like an owl and move my head around without moving my body. Super tough. 236, the most consecutive passes of a giant inflatable ball. It's about as exciting as it sounds, but I did this one with my neighbor Seth. 243, the most toilet paper rolls balanced on the forehead. This was a challenging record. I bought hundreds of rolls of toilet paper and stacked them thousands of times before I finally made a successful attempt. There's some awesome failure compilations of this one. Yes. 246, the fastest time to wrap a person in clean plastic wrap. My wife is a saint. 248, the furthest distance traveled on an electric unicycle while juggling. An extremely difficult and satisfying record. The hardest part was getting an electric unicycle for me. The first one I had a range of about 10 miles from my friend Matt. Got one with a range of 35 miles, and I ran it until the battery died. The biggest problem is actually foot cramps, because you have to keep an equal amount of weight on each foot the entire time. 249, the fastest 10-meter stroller run. This was such a fun record and satisfying because I got to do it with my son. The day he turned 50 pounds, I thought, he can be part of this record because I need a 50-pound person in that stroller. And so I got him in the helmet, the elbow pads, the knee pads, the wrist braces, popped up that stroller and started running. It took, I don't know, dozens of attempts, but we finally broke the record and celebrated together. It also went viral. 258, the most consecutive axe juggling catches. I almost tripled the record from the first time I broke it. 259, the fastest 100 meters dash juggling blindfolded, and you have to stay in your lane. This is again thousands of miles of juggling, practicing, hundreds of hours juggling, and then I had to wear AirPods in my ears with the adaptive audio settings where my wife did a slider to change the volume of the white noise in my ears for the immediate feedback from where I was in the lane because audio cues of right and left weren't fast enough. 264, the longest duration balancing a lawnmower in a chair, and went over 30 minutes. And for this one, I was actually awarded the certificate on the Today Show live. Totally surprised me because I'd broken it during 2021, but it was awarded during 2022 while I was on the Today Show. 266, the most 3D coin weaves in 1 minute. I was trying to break this on vacation in Italy, and I was actually in front of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, spinning these things around as fast as I possibly can. I'm 57 seconds in, but while I was doing it, the police walked up. And they got twisted up, and I didn't break the record. And the police are like, "Are you done?" And it wasn't a question. So I had to break it a day later in Cinque Terre. 272, on a cold day in December. I balanced a running lawnmower on my chin and walked 63 meters, breaking my 52nd record of the year. Come on! 276, the most thumbtacks inserted into a corkboard in 1 minute. Did this one on the Tamron Hall show. Had a ton of fun in New York City. 277, the most alternate fist bumps in 30 seconds. This got me another shot at America's Got Talent, where I broke the record again with Howie Mandel. After that, I broke it again with Dr. Mike on his podcast. 280, the most t-shirts worn for a half marathon. 111 t-shirts put on, and then I ran 13.1 miles. 282, the most marshmallows caught in the mouth in 1 minute, shot off a homemade catapult. Did this one with my brother-in-law Kevin over Father's Day weekend. 284, the furthest distance on a unicycle while juggling continuously. Had to buy a big wheel 36-inch for this one. Rode 29 miles before I finally dropped a ball. 285, the furthest distance to catch a hot dog into a bun. Had to find a guy with a 90+ mile-an-hour fastball to make this one happen. Mr. Beast thought it was impressive.
He caught a dog! That's a good dog catch. Glizzy. Walt, how far that glizzy go?
167 feet and 5 inches.
Wow.
287, the most consecutive Frisbee catches, 12,345, again with Chris Knight. 290, the most marshmallows caught in the mouth again off that homemade catapult, this time with Hollywood Hannon, because we needed time to practice and he's my neighbor. 295, the most baseball catches in a minute by a pair. This is the hardest record I've ever broken with Hollywood Hannon. We practiced for maybe even years in the 2 times we broke this record.
Can we just get 55?
Despite the fact that Japanese professional players have tried to break it twice. 300, the fastest time to pop 100 balloons with a feet. This took so many tries. 303, the most alternating fist bumps with Howie in 30 seconds. This time when I won an AGT, they had very little interest in seeing what my next act would be. 307, the most hugs in a minute by pair. Did this one with Josh Horton, YouTube star down in his studio in LA. Awesome guy, fun to work with. 316, the longest duration juggling. The hardest record I've ever broken. Previous record, 12 hours, 5 minutes. It took me 4 attempts. First attempt, 3.5 hours in, wife sends a note from the hospital, coming home with a baby. Second attempt, 10 hours, 53 minutes in, I drop a ball. No! Third attempt, 10 hours, 28 minutes in, and there's a ball on the floor. So dizzy, I didn't know what happened. Fourth attempt, finally make it. 13 hours, 10 minutes. Come on! 322, the most basketball passes in 1 minute with Dylan Lukehart. He almost got that hot dog in the bun when I caught it, but I missed it the time he threw it far enough. So he missed out on the record, so we finally got one together here. 329, the most chopsticks stuck into a beard in 1 minute by a team of 2. I did this one with Joel Strasser's beard and Garrett Smith. 336, the fastest time to fold and throw a paper airplane. I probably did it faster than this explanation took. It's been viewed tens of millions of times. 337, the furthest distance to head a soccer ball into a target. I had such a headache. This is my first and only soccer record. Soccer is my favorite sport. 344, the longest duration blindfolded juggling. The 4th time I've broken this record. That was my very first ever. This time I made it over 1 hour and 3 minutes, breaking that hour barrier that no one had ever done before. 350, the fastest time to put on 5 t-shirts shot from a t-shirt cannon. What a fun record to do. This time again with Jake Smith to get him a record back. And that brings us to 353, the final record of this list. I broke the record for the most records broken by breaking the record for the most records broken, which gives me the most records broken, which according to dozens of your comments, gives me another record, which breaks another record, giving me another record on into infinity, creating a paradox that cannot be resolved. No, that's not the way it works. I just hold the record. This completes my 2024 goal of holding the most concurrent Guinness World Records titles. I'll note that there are 4 people who currently hold more than 100 Guinness World Records titles. Myself at over 180, Silvio Saba at 180, Ashwita Furman with 140 something at this point, and Andre Ortov with about 110. I will have my work cut out for me to hold on to this record for as long as I possibly can. Check back soon for my next record, because I'm not about to stop breaking records. I'm David Record Breaker Rush, and I try to break a Guinness World Records title every week. Come on!